In the late 80s, the Western world was seeking thrills, speed, and disasters. Yes, because they go together. Italian brands focus on vehicles that are beautiful in appearance, unreliable, and above all, demanding to drive. Honestly, we don't care about that since it gives us sensations. On the Ferrari side, the Testarossa, the 328, and soon the 348 are added to the catalogue of cars that make thrill seekers dream. On its side, Lamborghini is also well established, with the Countach and soon the Diablo. But imagine a Japanese brand decides to give the Italians a little lesson on how to design a supercar, and imagine, of course, that this Japanese brand, by releasing its very first supercar, manages to deliver such a phenomenal blow that all the manufacturers started taking inspiration from this model. In short, you get it? Today we're gonna see how Honda dared to humiliate Ferrari and Lamborghini with this supercar. Not like the others, the Honda new sports car experimental. But before we go any further, who was Honda at the time? After making its debut in the two-wheeler sector, Honda moved into automobiles. In the early 1960s, in 1963, they began production of a sporty roadster, the S500. But that's not the only one. The T360 followed soon after, then the Civic in 1972, and the Corse in 1976. In short, Honda focuses on important aspects: accessible, simple, and above all, reliable vehicles. But Honda is also about Formula One Honda, Formula C, Formula One. Then, between 1964 and 1968, the Honda RA 272 Music D. And yes, they dared to offer their own single-seater, which still managed to win 2 Grand Prix. The lack of reliability and tragic accidents led them to withdraw from the spotlight, and you'll get to know them later. As engine suppliers, first with Williams F1 teams and then with McLaren, that's Honda, a brand that doesn't limit itself to what it already knows, but on the contrary, tries to innovate and progress. In the early years, Honda never produced a true mid-engine sports car. The brand is known for its motorcycle engines and its success in racing, but in its dealerships you'll mainly find front-wheel drive compacts and tame coupes. But in 1984, a small team of engineers had fun tinkering with a Honda City. What if we put an engine in the back? That could be really fun. So the result is a bit makeshift, but with a mid-rear engine just behind the seats. The results are promising, and the idea sticks with them. Why not one day build a real mid-engine sports car? That same year, Honda teams up with Pininfarina. Well yeah, at Honda they think fast. They want a car that's track-ready on weekends, grandpa-friendly for Monday commutes, and doesn't need a tow truck. So it was in the mid-80s that development of the new sports car experimental began, under the codename Honda Pininfarina Experimental for Honda Pininfarina Experimental. Well, the English accent isn't there yet. Yeah, Honda didn't overthink it. 30 years. The goal is to destroy Ferrari, so why not go to the famous Italian coach builder to beat them on their own turf? This prototype would be unveiled in 1984 with a small 2-liter in a mid-engine layout inspired by the aeronautical and Formula One technologies of the time. With Honda recently returning to F1, the supercar project is gaining more attention internally. 1985, Honda gives the green light. The Japanese brand will finally have its first real sports car. But Honda's management is very clear with its engineers. Your sports car has to be as fast as anything coming out of Italy or Germany. But better in terms of stability and price. That's it. Simple and effective. The goals are very clear. This isn't just a nice concept. They want to beat Ferrari at their own game, and the target is the 328 Gran Turismo Berlinetta. Honda is taking things seriously by going all in on engineering. Shigeru Uehara is appointed as the chief engineer of the project, and this guy will also work on the S2000. Alright, to get something high performing, the 2-liter 6 from the concept is out. It'll be a 3-liter 6 dual overhead camshafts, 24 valves, and their own in-house magic. Variable valve timing and lift electronic control, which will allow it to have a smooth engine at low revolutions per minute and aggressive at high revs, 274 horsepower at 7,300 revolutions per minute. That's rare for a small V6. It'll draw as much attention as an F1 engine thanks to the titanium connecting rod bearing. I'll just leave that here. And there will also be a 5-speed manual gearbox. So at first glance, the power doesn't seem impressive when you know that the 328 has 300 horsepower. But wait, I can tell you're in a hurry. I haven't even told you the most important part yet. And for the new sports car Experimental's second magic trick, the monocoque chassis, the body and the suspension are all made of aluminum. That's 200 kU less thanks to the aluminum. Basically, the new sports car Experimental is a concentrated concept of innovation. It's the first production car with an all-aluminum chassis and the first with an engine using titanium connecting rods. And it's also a first for Honda to use electric power steering on later versions. Hey, do you like crunchy stuff? Well, you should know that the glass cockpit of the new sports car Experimental offering panoramic visibility was inspired by a fighter jet, the F-16. The background isn't necessarily interesting, but it's cool. Honda knows how to make engines, there's no doubt about that. But to create a well-balanced supercar, you need a finely tuned chassis, and Honda has Formula 1 drivers on hand. Because at that time in the late 1980s, Honda was a supplier for McLaren. We'll see Satoru Nakajima conduct several prototype test sessions at Suzuka to fine-tune the chassis settings. But that, honestly, we don't care about. You want something juicy and I want something juicy. 1989, the fall of the Berlin Wall. Nothing to do with it. Ayrton Senna, while Honda is doing tests on the track just by chance, Ayrton happens to be there. It would still be great if he tested the car for marketing, or, I mean, just the chassis. Sorry, got carried away. So that's how our triple world champion ends up driving the new sports car Experimental without a helmet or harsh words, and we love it. When exiting the car, the engineers may have expected validation from our driver, but he said it still felt fragile. Champion I says the chassis lacks rigidity. Was the chassis adjustment a response to the criticism, or was it planned beforehand? We don't know that, but Honda will boost rigidity by over 50% from the initial prototype. Our car is finally ready to be unveiled to the world. Honda is finally lifting the veil on the new sport car Experimental at the Chicago Auto Show in February, then in Tokyo in October, and it's a thunderbolt. It's the first time a Japanese manufacturer has reached this level of technology in a road car. In 1990, the new sports car Experimental hit the open road, and it was a shock in the automotive world. A Japanese car with 274 horsepower that costs less than a Ferrari can run without breaking down, and on the track outperforms our little contender. And the journalists had the good idea to do a comparison of the year's releases, putting the new sports car Experimental up against the 348, the Porsche 911, and the Corvette ZR1. And in your opinion, who wins? Alright, let's skip the suspense. It's the new sports car Experimental stat-wise. It does 0 to 100 in 5.2 seconds, tops out at 270, but what you need to remember is that it runs well and it runs hard. To the point where the little 348, well, if I may, at this stage is extremely criticized. First, because it's not that high performing, its electronics are temperamental, and a Toyota midship runabout 2 catches up to it, which is embarrassing. Kia Kono Mama Najero. It's not a party. At Ferrari, the new sports car Experimental really makes them look old, to the point where Ferrari is going to react. Luca di Montezemolo, the big boss of Ferrari in the 90s, would eventually admit that the 348 was the worst Ferrari product they ever released. There you go, speak to us in French. And it's only with the F355 that they managed to catch up, so think what you want. But I'm telling you, the new sports car Experimental really kicked the Italians' asses, and it's probably thanks to it that our friends finally got their act together. Ah, I'm being blunt today, there you go, I'm telling you, I'm being blunt. By the way, Honda's little baby was taken extremely seriously by a certain Gordon Murray, the one who designed the McLaren F1. Oh, nothing major. Yes sir. Murray was so impressed that he used ideas from the new sports car Experimental for his McLaren F1, now considered one of the greatest supercars ever. There you have it. So, when the creator of the legendary McLaren F1 acknowledges the superiority of a production Honda over the Ferraris of that era, you can say that Honda succeeded beyond all expectations. And what about in competition? So, how can I put it simply? It's very high performing, it's very, not necessarily lucky, but very high performing, and it still had a legendary run. From the early 1990s, Honda entered the new sports car Experimental in various motorsport events. In '94, during the 24 Hours of Le Mans, a Honda new sports car Experimental was entered by Team Kunimitsu with 3 Japanese drivers behind the wheel, including one rather famous name, Keiichi Tsuchiya. Or the Drift King, or even the King of Drift. He's even called the Ray of Drifting. Anyway, you get it, I like this guy. So our supercar is entered against the Ferraris and the Porsches of Sacre, but no one really has high hopes for it. And yet, after 24 hours of intense racing, the Honda new sports car Experimental wins the Grand Touring. 2 category, that's crazy. Wait, I've got something even better. The story goes that this new sports car Experimental had to start from the pits with a 6-lap delay at the beginning of the race, which makes its victory even more impressive. Alright, let's head to Japan, and it's the Japanese Touring Car Championship, the Japanese Grand Touring Championship in the Grand Touring 500 category that we're going to focus on. Good luck, since you're up against the Supra and Nissan Skyline Gran Turismo racer from that era. After that, there's no need to pressure yourself. Since Honda is collaborating with DOM to develop a Grand Touring 500 specific chassis powered by a Mugen engine, they're taking matters into their own hands. It sports legendary liveries with Castrol Raybrig Arta, and it's true that it looks awesome with its V6 pushed to over 500 horsepower. So it made its debut in 1996 and quickly became ultra high performing, racking up pole positions one after another. 1998 would be the season of consecration for the new sports car experimental, taking pole position in all 7 rounds of the championship and winning the last 4 races of the season. By the way, this winning streak continued in 1999, reaching a record of 6 consecutive victories. But reliability issues and very intense competition prevented Honda from winning the title. 1998 Round 1 Suzuka. Despite a pole position, the new sports car experimental suffered mechanical failures during the race. Round 2 still in pole position. Under torrential rain, there was a big crash between a 911 and a Ferrari F355 Cater caught fire, causing the race to be cancelled. In short, there are a lot of events like this. This earned it the reputation of being a double-edged sword. In 2000, Honda introduced the new sports car experimental Grand Touring Phase 2 with a lower mounted engine and a transmission derived from Formula Nippon. And despite a difficult start because of the fragility of this new gearbox, Ryo Michigami, behind the wheel of the Castrol Mugen new sports car experimental number 16, managed to secure the first driver and team title for Honda. Let me add that he did it without winning a race, but we shouldn't focus on that. It's just a detail, right? However, thanks to extreme consistency, he managed to put Honda at the top. The new sports car experimental thus proves that it's not only a marvel of road engineering but also a formidable race car. Over the years, the new sports car experimental Grand Touring 500s evolved with widened bodies and tuned engines, sometimes twin turbocharged depending on Grand Touring 500 regulations. It won other victories and titles, for example the team title in 2002 in Grand Touring 500 and even a title in the Grand Touring 300 category in 2004 with a lighter version in 2007. The duo Ralph Furman and Daisuke Ito won another Super Grand Touring Championship title with the new sports car experimental for Team Arta. They even managed to clinch the championship before the final race just to prove their dominance a bit more. Our little supercar still remained at the forefront of competition for 15 years before saying goodbye to the Japanese circuit one last time. November 2009 marked the end of an era before being replaced by a new prototype, the HSV010. More than 50 victories, 4 drivers' titles in total. In short, an impressive record that does the brand proud. In just a few years, the new sports car experimental achieved what seemed impossible, shaking up the established order of supercars dominated by Ferrari and Lamborghini. And for the first time, Ferrari could see itself in the rearview mirror of our Japanese car. The first generation new sports car experimental was produced until 2005, which means 15 years of production, with some updates but never betraying its original concept. Even today, it is revered as an icon. And let's be honest, that's pretty cool. Stories where the student surpasses the master?